We often hear the same names when discussing art history: Picasso, Michelangelo, Van Gogh. Historically, male artists have received more recognition. However, beyond those well-known figures are many others. Women who painted, sculpted, and created with equal dedication and vision. Their work may not have been as widely acknowledged at the time, but their influence continues to shape how we understand art today. In this video, we'll take a closer look at 6 female artists who made important contributions to the development of modern and contemporary art. We begin with Agnes Martin, a painter whose work might seem quiet and minimal at first glance, but carries a deep emotional current beneath the surface. Though often grouped with minimalists, Martin preferred to describe her art as abstract and spiritual. She wasn't interested in industrial materials or rigid systems. Her approach was intuitive, emotional, and personal. Lines were drawn by hand, delicate and imperfect. Instead of following a strict formula, she chose colors for how they felt. In her grid paintings, fine pencil marks and soft tones come together with quiet precision and steady rhythm. In the early 1950s, Martin became interested in Eastern philosophy after attending lectures by Jiddu Krishnamurti and D.T. Suzuki. This influence, along with her interest in abstract expressionism, shaped a period of work marked by biomorphic forms and muted shades of beige, green, grey, and cream. These colors conveyed a sense of warmth and calm. Martin often described her work as an expression of quietness. Through subtle lines and repetition, she aimed to evoke emotional states such as innocence, joy, and beauty. She believed that true art came not from intellect, but from an awareness of beauty and happiness. Martin's paintings reflect a careful balance of structure, space, and inner stillness. Her work invites us to slow down, to look more closely, and perhaps to feel something we didn't expect. Ruth Asawa was an American artist best known for her intricate wire sculptures. These works appear both delicate and architectural, like line drawings suspended in space. She was born in 1926 in California to Japanese immigrant parents. During World War II, Asawa and her family were forcibly relocated to an internment camp. Despite these harsh conditions, she continued to draw and study art, even taking classes from fellow detainees. She later said she held no bitterness and believed that good can come through adversity. Although she is most recognized for her sculptures, Asawa considered drawing the foundation of her practice. She called it both her greatest pleasure and greatest challenge, and she drew daily with a focus on line, shape, and rhythm. Her wire forms were inspired by a trip to Mexico in 1947, where she saw artisans weaving baskets from wire. She adapted the technique into a sculptural language of her own, creating hanging shapes that loop and spiral through space. As light moves through them, their shadows become part of the work. For Asawa, process mattered as much as outcome. She believed in patience, in repetition, and in giving simple materials the chance to become something more. Later in life, she became a passionate advocate for arts education, helping to establish public programs that made creativity more accessible. To Asawa, art was not separate from life. It was a way of seeing, feeling, and shaping the world with care. As she once said, "Art is doing. Art deals directly with life." You may have seen her giant pumpkins, glowing dots, or endless mirrors, sometimes even without realizing it. Yayoi Kusama's art feels playful and surreal, but at its core, it is about trauma, obsession, and survival through creation. Born in Japan in 1929, Kusama began drawing at a young age, using art to process her emotions and recurring hallucinations. She saw patterns covering everything: dots multiplying across walls, across her body, even across the sky. She described the sensation as dissolving into the universe. These visions frightened her, but they also became the foundation of her work. In the 1950s, she moved to New York and developed her signature style through paintings, soft sculptures, installations, and public performances. Her work was bold and often ahead of its time, including anti-war events and body painting protests during the Vietnam War. Despite her originality, she was often overlooked or had her ideas borrowed by male artists of the time. For Kusama, repetition was a form of healing. She once said, "If it were not for art, I would have killed myself a long time ago." Her infinity mirror rooms, now visited by millions around the world, began decades ago. These works invite viewers into a world of reflection and endless space, where the self seems to dissolve into light and repetition. After many years of being ignored, Kusama rose to global recognition later in life and eventually became one of the most celebrated living artists in the world. When we think of abstract art, names like Kandinsky, Mondrian, or Picasso often come to mind. But before any of them, a Swedish artist named Hilma of Klint was already painting pure abstraction, yet history overlooked her for a long time. Born in 1862, Hilma of Klint created bold, geometric compositions filled with swirling colors and symbolic forms. Her work feels more like the 21st century than the 19th. She was deeply influenced by spiritual beliefs, including theosophy and later anthroposophy, and often described her art as guided by messages from higher beings. For her, painting was not about self-expression, but about channeling something beyond the visible world. Between 1906 and 1915, she created a remarkable series called The Paintings for the Temple, filled with abstract geometry and quiet symmetry. Believing the world wasn't ready, she requested that the works not be shown until at least 20 years after her death. They remained largely unseen until the 1980s, and only recently has she been recognized as a visionary. Today, Hilma of Klint is celebrated as a pioneer of abstract art, offering a spiritual dimension that continues to resonate with artists and audiences alike. Her story reminds us that influence is not always immediate, but it can be lasting. Sometimes it takes the world a little longer to listen, but the voice remains. Her paintings look like whispers, bold yet spare, somewhere between language and silence. Toko Shinoda didn't just paint with ink, she reimagined it. Born in 1913 in China and raised in Japan, Shinoda trained in classical calligraphy from a young age. But instead of following tradition, she removed meaning from the characters, allowing gesture, texture, and space to take the lead. In the 1950s, she spent several years in New York, where she encountered abstract expressionism. Rather than adopt its energy-driven gestures, she developed her own visual language by balancing sweeping brushstrokes with intentional space. Her work often used sumi ink alongside subtle tones of silver or grey. The results are spare but powerful. Her compositions are more than visual expressions. They are meditations on balance, impermanence, and the quiet tension between movement and stillness. Shinoda's work reflects the core principles of Japanese aesthetics, particularly Ma, the awareness of space and timing, and wabi-sabi, the beauty found in restraint and imperfection. Her career was not always easy. At 27, her first solo exhibition was harshly criticized, but Shinoda stayed true to her vision. As she once said, "This world is full of limitations, but I want to keep my inner freedom. When it comes to what I create, I want to do it freely, without worrying about anyone else." Even in her later years, well into her hundreds, she remained creatively active. Her paintings carried a sense of clarity and stillness, as if they reflected her way of life. Her work invites us into a moment of quiet attention where brush, breath, and silence come together. Georgia O'Keeffe is one of the most iconic American artists of the 20th century. Often called the mother of American modernism, her work is grounded in the landscapes of the American Southwest, yet it speaks to something more universal. Born in 1887 in Wisconsin, O'Keeffe trained in traditional painting, but found realism too limiting. Rather than simply copy what she saw, she aimed to paint what she felt. She wanted to create an emotional equivalent of her experience, not just a visual record. She believed that by magnifying simple objects, like a single flower or a bleached animal bone, she could shift the viewer's perspective and open up new ways of seeing. Her paintings are not decorative studies of nature. They are quiet meditations on form, space, and perception. O'Keeffe moved between urban life and nature. In New York, she painted skyscrapers and cityscapes, but it was the American Southwest that ultimately transformed her. In the 1930s, she began spending time in New Mexico and eventually moved there full-time. The desert, with its bones, cliffs, and endless skies, became central to her work. Her art may seem bold, but it is quietly reflective. It asks us to slow down, to really look, and to be present. Like a quiet invitation, it stays with us. Each of these 6 artists worked in her own time and voice, but together, they reshaped the language of art. While their work wasn't always recognized in its time and was sometimes overlooked, it continues to resonate and influence the art world today. Do you have a favorite among them? Share your thoughts in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.